Thank you.
I'm Jenny Clark, and this is the Valley Voice.
Hello, and welcome to the Valley Voice, a videocast of the Western Tribune. The Valley Voice brings candidates, community leaders, and notable folks from across the state of Arizona to whatever device you're watching from. If you like what you hear, then please check out the Western Tribune at westerntrib.com. Hello, Jenny. Thank you for joining us today. We're thrilled to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, your background, work experience. What should the audience know about you?
Absolutely. So I was born and raised here in Phoenix, Arizona. Went to public schools, kindergarten through 12th grade. Go Matadors. And I have 5 children, 3, 6, 9, 10, and 12. So I've been married for 16 years, and I love Arizona.
Awesome. What is Love Your Schools?
So Love Your School is a nonprofit organization that I started a couple years ago, really to help families find the education option that works best for them, but also to support families through the process of finding scholarships and other programs that might work for their children. So we work a lot with families who might have children that are special needs or need something a little bit different than maybe a traditional school environment can provide for them.
Awesome. What inspired you to start Love Your School?
Yes, that's a great question. So I, as I mentioned, have 5 children, and when my 2 oldest boys, we have 3 boys and 2 girls, when my 2 oldest boys were 6 and 8, we discovered that they both had a severe dyslexia and dysgraphia. So people are pretty familiar with dyslexia. Dysgraphia has to do with the brain and how they write, handwriting. And when we went through that process through our local school district, we were kind of shocked and a little disappointed to find that they did not offer any dyslexia remediation programs for our children. So it was like we worked really hard to figure this out. We had this diagnosis, and unfortunately, that's where we were left. And so throughout that process, we discovered the Arizona Empowerment Scholarship Account Program, which of course has been in Arizona for 11 years. It's a fantastic school choice program. And when we heard about that program, which of course we qualified for, we were really surprised to find out that we actually would have qualified for that scholarship 2 years earlier. And we just didn't know about it. And we had been spending a lot of money on different tutoring and therapy and trying to get a diagnosis that really could have been covered during a difficult time in our life. So we wanted to make sure that we helped other families know about their education options, specifically how to access a lot of these really neat and very unique programs in Arizona.
Okay. Before you started Love Your School, what were you doing before that?
So before I started Love Your School, I was a stay-at-home mom for 10 years. Love being a stay-at-home mom. It's been fantastic. Of course, running a nonprofit has its ups and its downs, but I still get to be at home a lot with my kids. All 5 of my kids are actually on an Arizona Empowerment Scholarship. So every year we evaluate, hey, is home educating with an ESA what's best for our kids? Public school, private school, and we just kind of make it work depending on what's going on in our life and work and what our kids need that year.
What was that transition like from being a stay-at-home mom to being the CEO of your own foundation?
Yeah, that was an interesting transition. I'm sure a lot of moms that have started something, because moms are so awesome that way, so entrepreneurial and, already helping. There's so many moms I know that are already helping other moms, but maybe they just don't have a nonprofit or a foundation, right? It just happened to be kind of the right time for me and for Love Your School, where there was a lot of conversation in Arizona around education, and there was a little momentum behind what I was specifically doing and wanted to do with Love Your School. So it was difficult, but I have a very supportive family, supportive husband. Also, my kids, I bring them to a lot of things that I do with Love Your School. So they'll come to park events with me. They know all about a lot of these different programs. They sometimes talk to their friends and family about some of these programs. Say, hey, you should talk to my mom. So it was a little bit challenging, but made better by a great support system.
All right. Let's say that I'm an AZ parent or guardian and I'm looking for a new school option for my child. Give me the pitch. How can Love Your School help me?
Yeah, the pitch. Okay, so Love Your School can really walk you through what's important to your family, and we really start that process by saying, tell us about your kids. Tell us what they love. Tell us what they're good at. Tell us why they're unique, but also tell us the areas that you might be worried about them in. Where are your areas of concern? And a lot of times as we walk through that process, just over a phone call with a parent, certain things will start to come out and we can say, hey, we know about this program over here. Or, oh, you mentioned that you're a little bit worried about your child's reading or their math. Have you ever had an evaluation? Have you ever looked into getting a diagnosis for that? Let's dig into that a little bit more. And really a lot of what we do is empower parents. We empower parents to really be advocates for what they want, and we empower parents to really look for what's best for their children.
Okay, so the process is kind of a custom process for every parent that calls, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we call it our parent concierge service, and we're actually kind of branching out to businesses and other nonprofit organizations, basically saying, hey, you've got employees, your employees have children, and I think people realize more now than they ever did before that it matters what's going on with your employees' kids. If that's going to make it difficult for your employee to come to work, to be at peace about their job, they might have to have them at home if there's a COVID outbreak, whatever it is. So we step in and say, we can solve that problem for you as a parent or you as a business or a nonprofit by making sure that your employees and that their families know about what their choices are. Their school is closed and they want to do something else, send them our way. Let's walk through, what the other options are. And a lot of times during that process, families are surprised to discover that their children actually might qualify for some of these other scholarship opportunities. So they are like, yeah, my school's okay, but I've always wanted to do this thing over here. And we're like, well, let's talk about that. Let's help make that a reality for you.
Gotcha. So you mentioned helping students through difficult times. So these past 2 years, how was that process like dealing with the global pandemic? Were there more families calling you during this time for help?
Yes, the pandemic was quite interesting because we actually became a 501c3 January of 2020. So the very beginning of the pandemic, and like all nonprofits, not a lot of money. You're kind of scrappy doing everything together. You got your social media and your website and you're just kind of figuring it out. And I was really worried about how we were going to reach new parents. Like I have my mom networks and I was already helping a lot of moms that way, but I'm like, how are we going to reach people in other cities or in low income communities or people that my natural network maybe wasn't, of my local moms? And it was the opposite. It was parents were coming to us saying, my kids are at home, what do I do? And we started, providing resources online. We actually launched a podcast at the beginning of at the pandemic, just with other moms, with other teachers, other educators, with the hope that even if, just a couple parents listen to this one podcast, encouraging families that, it's okay if your kid isn't sitting and learning for 6 hours a day while they're at home during the pandemic, that's okay. If it was just educating parents and empowering them, that it was enough. And then, of course, it just kept going. We're like 50 episodes in, interviewing all sorts of different people. But it grew a lot because parents were wondering, what do I do with my kids? Help. And we were like, we can help you.
It's kind of like what happened with you. Started off.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yep.
We're going to kind of switch gears a little bit to legislation. What does Love Your School want to see from the Arizona legislature this session?
Love Your School would love to see any growing of school choice options and opportunities for Arizona families. There is one bill that I'm personally really excited about, Senate Bill 1657. It opens up the Empowerment Scholarship Account program to so many families that really need access and they need options and opportunity for their kids. So it would open up the ESA program to low-income families who presently right now do not have access to the program. It also opens up the program to families who are first responders, children of first responders, so our police and our fire, also veterans. A lot of people are really surprised to know that while military families qualify for the Empowerment Scholarship Account program, that our veteran families do not qualify. So I'd love to see those types of things because we've seen during COVID how many families really need to have more education choice and opportunity to do what's right for their children. So some of those families might benefit from being on an ESA for their kids.
Do you think there's a good chance that SB 1657 passes?
Ooh, that's a great question for someone who probably knows a lot more about politics than I do. I would hope so. I think in Arizona right now, we really have an environment that is supportive of school choice and education freedom. So it is my sincere hope, because of the number of families that I personally know and have worked with that need access to that program, that we see that legislation passed and get signed into law.
Okay. Going off of school choice, there's been a lot of concern from the public about what kind of effects school choice programs have on the public school system. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So the research actually shows that school choice improves public school student outcomes. And I love talking about that because we hear that narrative sometimes, but it's always really important to go back and look at the facts and look at the data and look at the research out there that shows what do school choice programs provide for the public students who choose to still stay in their public school. We see things like it reduces crime, it increases graduation rates. Also for states as it relates to spending. In Arizona alone, the ESA program and those families that are on the ESA, they save this state and they save our taxpayers millions of dollars because they do essentially more for their family or their child with less money. So, it's really exciting when you think about the benefits that school choice programs have just all across the board for public school students that end up choosing the public schools, but also for those families that end up choosing to do something different.
To go into more detail about school choice programs, with the recent budget proposal, there's an increased investment in public schools. In a similar vein, how would increased investment in school choice programs impact the economy?
Well, I think I'm like most people where when I say that we should always continue to invest in education, investing in education, public schools, district, charter is a worthwhile expense for any state. I would love to see continued growth in the school choice sector because of how it impacts the economy. And one of the stories that I just love sharing as it relates to this is Phoenix Woodworking School. So Phoenix Woodworking School was started by a gentleman who was kind of in his retirement age and had 30 plus years of contractor experience, and he wanted to share that experience with students, with other students. And we were connected just as an empowerment scholarship account family ourselves to Phoenix Woodworking School because we really wanted our 3 oldest boys to learn those types of skills. And through that process, we ended up getting their school qualified as a vendor through the Arizona Department of Education to accept other ESA students. And now they're completely booked out. They cannot take a single extra student, and they're teaching these valuable skills to up and coming Arizona students. So I love that story because it just highlights the microeconomy that's created with some of these school choice programs and how people who have incredible skills, but maybe they can't go be a traditional teacher in the classroom, can still benefit Arizona students, which of course is going to benefit Arizona down the road. I mean, we know that we need more and more people in the building sector, in construction, and all these different things. And what a great example of how a school choice program is actually solving that need. Quick follow-up to that point, I know some men in a steel manufacturing business. When I told them about Phoenix Woodworking School, they were like, hey, we want to see what this guy is doing with K-12 students. And they came over and they toured and learned about how we started it in this just beautiful kind of facility that he has in his own backyard. So I love talking about those things because who knows what could be on the horizon if we continue to increase and expand school choice options in our state. The opportunity is really limitless to continue to grow new programs that could really help Arizona students and in turn help Arizona's future economy.
Okay. What are some of your favorite projects Love Your School has accomplished so far?
Goodness. So the favorite project that we've probably accomplished so far is just really the parents that we support. The first year, we were helping an average of 1 new family a day, which maybe doesn't seem like a lot, but when you look back on a month, and of course the first year it was just me. So when you look back on a month and you're looking through your list and you're like, whoa, we actually helped 30 plus families do something different for their child. And sometimes those family situations are really complicated where we work with them for weeks and months. So for example, when a family comes to us and says, hey, I think my child might have autism and this school isn't working, and we actually help that family go through the process of getting an autism diagnosis, get all their paperwork together, apply for an empowerment scholarship, and then help them find a school, and that whole process is done and complete. It's just mind-blowingly rewarding, and to see that happen over and over again with so many different families, so many different situations is incredible. And now 2 years in, we're doing double that. So it's like the phone is ringing all the time, texts, emails all the time, and we really pride ourselves in being there for parents when they need us. I've been sharing more kind of screenshots on Twitter about our work helping families. And last Friday night, I had a mom call me around, I think it was around 6 p.m. And she's like, hey, I'm off work. I'm ready to apply for the scholarship you told me about. And my husband is here too. Can you walk us through this process? And it's like, yes, I can. At 6 o'clock on a Friday night, walk you through this process, because that is the type of support that families need that they're not getting anywhere else. And that's what Love Your School provides for families.
Okay, so after talking about the past accomplishments, what's on the horizon for you and Love Your School? What should we be seeing in the future?
Growth. Lots and lots of growth is what we should be seeing in the future, and making sure that every Arizona family knows what their education options and their choices are. Arizona is a big state, so it takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of money, but we are prepared for that. We want that growth, and we want to be working with individuals and nonprofits and businesses and the state to ensure that there is not a single family in Arizona that doesn't know what their choices are, what their options are for their family.
Where can people follow Love Your School?
They can follow us in lots of places. So of course, we have our website, loveyourschool.org. We're also on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and of course, we're on Twitter. And our Twitter is I Heart My School.
Thank you for sharing about Love Your Schools today on the Valley Voice, Jenny. We appreciate your time, and we're happy that you can join us today.
Thank you. It's been great chatting with you today.